to W-2 or not W-2? That is the question. And once you leave the W-2, I guess we know the answer to that question. What would tempt you to go back, right? Is it unlimited vacation days? And if your company isn't offering you unlimited vacation days today, why are you still there, right? So I want to know, once you have the freedom, once you're living on your own terms, would you ever go back? Now, we talk about that. We circle around the topic of trending investing strategies like glamping and luxurious tree houses and RV parks. Question is that, are they there to stay? Are they here to stay, should I say? Also, Brody lets us know his definition of what an alcoholic's wet dream looks like. And amazingly, he ties it into what we're all talking about. So if you want to chat about anything we discussed here today, I'm giving my cell phone number at the end of this episode. So be sure to stick around. This is episode number 167 of the W2 Capitalist Podcast.
No, we have
I learned so much. Like Monday night, I was on the mobile home park call. I mean, literally, my son is sitting next to me. Don't have the camera on. I've got my earbuds in, just listening in. And when something comes up and I want to chime in, I was able to. But I just, for an hour, it's all it was. It was an hour, and it was amazing. So I need to do that more often.
Same.
Because we're gonna get a mobile home park.
Yep.
Soon.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want it, huh?
There's something, and I
a
have
classy
to be careful.
one, right? Like not something you'd see on Cops.
Well,
But
I don't know. That's too big.
not a trailer park, Jeff.
He didn't say you wanted to live there. He said you wanted to own it.
Yeah, as long as it cash flows. But there's something intriguing to me about a project where it's all parked on homes and transitioning that to tenant on homes. Like I don't know. I feel like I think the project management in me is coming out. Like I want to tackle one of those projects and make money at it, just to say that I've done it and see what it looks like on the other.
I get that.
Now, okay, let me clarify. Are we
Jamie
talking literally like single wide trailers? Or are we
Yeah.
talking like people roll in with their RVs? And
Single wide trailers, not RVs. There is something intriguing about an RV park too, but I think that's because when we lived in one for 6 months, it was stressful and anxiety. Very anxious. It kept me very anxious on like where we were going to live from month to month, because the area we stayed was just so busy. And I'm like, there's a huge supply and demand issue here. How do I find land to build out an RV park? And then we said the heck with that life and started traveling differently. And thankfully, because the price of diesel, I mean, we're at $5.50 per gallon. So
Thanks, Joe.
thank you, Joe. Another J.
not to be political.
I wasn't going to say it, but
it's all right, man.
here it is. The blunders.
Yeah, why do you ask that way, Jeff, about the mobile home park?
I would rather have the RV one, I think. Because
it's a full.
I mean, there's a rule here. There's a rule here. I don't know if it's everywhere, but there's a rule here that there's a way to kind of get a better class of people. Like you can set a precedent of the age of the RV. Like it has to be built before a certain year.
Right.
And that helps with like somebody not just rolling up like Cousin Eddie in Christmas Vacation, like that kind of thing.
Well, you can do that in a mobile home community as well.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
You can have guidelines for how your folks who lease your lots, like how they are supposed to keep their property looking, right?
I didn't know if there was any extra money out of people coming in and out. Because, I mean, like if you rent a house, obviously you get payment for that. But if you do an STR, then you can potentially make more per month. So I didn't know if there was any advantage to that.
Yeah.
You probably could make more on an RV park, I would think. I think it would depend on where it was, location and amenities and everything else. But
Yeah, one of the best camp stays, I mean, this is kind of set in my memory, but my wife and I, 2 years ago now, we went to Charlottesville here in Virginia. Devil Backbone, I swear to God, made like the Disneyland of beer out there. So like the 141 trail is just like an alcoholic's wet dream. It's literally just like distilleries, wineries, breweries, just all up and down this thing. So, I mean, it's pretty cool to go hang out because you can hike, then come down, get a campfire and get a beer. But like out of all those places, like Devil's Backbone, uh, they like kind of perfected like the whole campsite in my mind. Cause they have like this beer campus. So they have like 4 buildings and like one of them is like a, concession stand almost like you'd see at a ballpark, but it's like really classy. It's got the big, huge logs and they have like a lounge and then they have like a frontier store and then they have like a big restaurant. So like you can eat outside and then like you get the central hub and then all around it are like tent campgrounds and then outside of that are like RV campgrounds and they have like bonus stuff like you can buy wood, you can buy s'mores kits, so there's like all these different streams of income coming through just this one site. And I just think that's super cool. And so every time I'm like thinking about how to short-term rental out like some campgrounds, I'm like, it's gotta be that energy or nothing at all. Like, cause just renting out some dirt, you can do it, sure. But like, if it's not some level of glamping, it's just like, is it really worth the experience? I've gone rough. Like I've gone and stayed in national parks, but the people who are going to go do that are going to go stay in a national park,
National park,
like
yeah.
what gives you that, we got to go to this one, so
Trina has showed me like a bunch of basically tree houses.
oh yeah, those are
especially up
super
in-
cool too.
especially up like in
Maine?
Georgia, and they are just book solid, and they're just making just hand over fist because again, it's about the experience, So
Yeah.
But is it trendy? Is it one of these things that's going to last
Right.
for a couple of years and then expire? Like, what's y'all's
I
thoughts on that?
I've seen. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I just said people like to be in the woods, and they
Mhm.
don't want to like set up a tent, and they don't want to, do all the bullshit. They want to be in the woods, but they don't want to, rough
Be in
it.
the woods,
right? Or be right.
I feel like we're trending back towards a connection with nature in a way, and hear me out.
Oh, he's
here.
going
So,
deep. We're going
yeah,
deep.
Whoa.
No,
Whoa.
I mean,
Go
so,
for
I
it,
mean,
Jamie.
COVID threw a lot of that into motion, right? I mean, the whole work from home movement, the whole remote work, whatever you want to call it. People now have the flexibility to kind of get out and roam. And I think this is my opinion, an inner like drive to connect with nature around you. At least I get a lot out of it. So I think a lot of people are starting to be more mobile and want to have those experiences. So will that last? That's a great question, but I think we've got a pretty long runway before it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be looking at rebuilding tree houses because of rot before people stop.
Yeah.
I love the unlimited vacation policy that a lot of companies are coming out with and supporting. I think that's incredible. By the way, everybody, the W2 Capitalist and all of its subsidiaries and sister companies, we support unlimited vacation days. So
Yeah, I mean, the whole like 4-day work week is getting a lot of momentum right now. Yeah,
I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
That's what I do with my guys.
Yep.
They
Oh, really?
work 4/10s, and they love
4/10s. I work 4/10s. Yeah, I freaking go work 4/10s tomorrow.
it. Yeah.
I
Heck
work
yeah.
They get
6/12s.
3-day weekend.
Yeah, now I work 6/12s. But if I were like to go back to the whole W2 scene, I would try to find 4/10s.
Have y'all seen that audio on the reels on Instagram where it's like, I didn't want to work a 9 to 5 anymore, so I started my own job. Now I work 24/7. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw one. I just saw one of those.
Makes total
Yeah.
sense.
But doesn't it feel good though to just
Yeah,
be in
there's
control?
something to it.
There
There's
is.
something to
There's I don't know. Maybe control is an illusion, right? So maybe there's that feeling, but then there's
Well,
also
there's a
all the,
feeling of a future that you have control over, not
yeah.
trying to convince some boss to give you a fucking raise. You
Oh
know,
man,
or
Yeah.
trying to promote you. You know,
I was so
like,
horrible at that.
Like at least it's under your control. You know, you have the power of your destiny, as compared to just like, am I ever gonna get some recognition for whatever? So,
Yeah.
it's a lot more work, but I'd still rather do it.
I think kind of taking a different tack too. Like if you're trying to build something for yourself over a long period of time, it gives that day job more meaning and purpose versus like exactly what Jeff was saying. It's like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like for me, like sailing was like, I loved sailing because it was a means to an end.
Yeah.
You know, like my first job was like 80 hours of what the fuck I was doing. You know, like what am I doing? It showed me a lot of cool stuff like I was talking about on our last conversation, but like, yeah, like what am I doing here? I'm building nothing. I'm gonna be broke in 40 years if I stay here. Whereas like sailing was like, we can make a lot of money and take a lot of time off. It's a great career path, you know, like it was it's the OG COVID work from home stuff, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just go work
Yeah.
for 6 months and then take 6 months off. So like that was the game plan there. Cause I was like, okay, we could figure out what to do in those 6 months to start
What
building,
what
you
were you
know?
doing with sailing?
So sailing, like merchant marining, now my last assignment was year round. So it was like, I was there for 2 straight years, but that was because I was getting married and settling down in a house here in Virginia. So it was like really worked out really well. But like that was part of like the W-2 fulfilling kind of like a dream of mine. But then it was like, okay, now what does that dream look like? It's changed. So, you know, can a W-2 be a means to an end? I would say yes, but at the same token, if it's getting in the way of you achieving your dreams, you should figure out how to extricate yourself rapidly because like we were saying, there's so many more obstacles in your way if you're trying to do it through a W-2.
Is there a
Yeah.
scenario, Brody, where you would go back to the W-2 world?
Yes, if my company goes bankrupt.
You're a real estate company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
wholesaling and well, I haven't done any flipping. I'm just, perfectly a wholesaler right now. Try to stay focused on that. So like, yeah, if I go to zero, which is it's all my own money, so it's like I'm never going broke because I have a skill set to go fall back on, and I
Right.
get a job offer once a week from my union. So it's like, all right, so don't be afraid, Brody. Let's do some hood shit. Let's do some risky shit because we always have plan B here.
Some hood
Um,
shit.
Plus, you don't
It-
have any kids.
And
yeah.
plus, we don't have any
that's-
kids, so
That's when
yeah.
you go crazy.
Why
when
do you
don't
think I
have
was like
kids.
sitting here quietly smiling when you're like, give him an iPad? And I was like, yeah, give me an iPad.
Is
I
that
love bringing
tempting?
iPads to the movie theaters. Oh wait, they're talking about their kids.
Oh, yeah. Brody, is that tempting that you get that many job offers to come back from the?
Yeah, it's tempting. It's
Yeah.
tempting because like, in startup phase, it's kind of tough getting
Mm-hmm.
consistent cash flow. So like, ain't no better heroin than like a monthly paycheck,
Yeah.
especially when it's
Yeah.
a decent
get ya.
paycheck. That's how they get you.
I've
They
got
false
this
you into,
drug.
yeah.
I'm gonna just try it once.
Yeah, it's a real good false sense of security, but at the same time, like it was a good job to kind of like build up capital quick and then, get off and then do something with it. But at the same token, it's like, all right, the name of the game is consistency. So we got
Well,
to be
you had
consistent
called
with one or
me.
consistent with the other.
You'd called me a couple of weeks ago, and it
I was
sounded
thinking
like
about going back. I was struggling. Yeah, I'm not gonna
we
lie.
we had
It'll
a
be those days.
conversation about it, and it was just a bro conversation about what to do or whatever. But we had a little heart to heart, and I'm not going to make decisions for anybody, but I think in the long run, especially with Brody, who doesn't have as many, obviously, like we said before, kids and responsibilities because he's younger. But I'm sure he still has plenty of those.
I just got to
But
keep the roof over our head basically and the lights on.
right, like it's a lot different than it is for the us people with kids. But I just
There's
kinda
always
talked him
adoption.
through it. I talked him off. I talked him off the ledge. I feel
Yeah.
like. And
No, yeah, he
Good.
did.
I do
'Cause
agree with Brody though that a W-2 can be a catalyst towards like future
Yeah,
growth. Though I
totally.
mean, it absolutely could be a stepping stone or even
Yeah.
like a launch pad, really, depending on what you're doing and kind of the time freedom you had. I mean,
Agreed.
that's how I got into it. Working in sales, had some flexibility, made good money, and I mean, kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But
helps a lot
what
of
sucks
people out.
is like you gotta take your off time, which
Did you say what sucks or
needs
what
to-
sex? What did you say?
what sucks. What
Oh, okay, that makes more
sucks.
sense.
What sucks
Context, Jay. Context.
Yeah, I was like, what sex is you got to
What
take
the new
off
app?
time, and I
is-
didn't understand where you're going. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you got to give them at least 40 hours a week, and then you
Mhm.
have to build something away from those 40 hours, and then you also have to be like a family man and a lot of other things. So it's hard to kind of do time management for something like that when you're already tired from doing your regular job and doing your family obligations. So
yeah,
So that's 100% why I was like definitely stepping back from the cliff after our conversation. Cause I was thinking about like, I was like, what if I don't want to sail? I want to go do like being a firefighter or something, you know, cause they work, 10 to 15 days a month. And it's like,
hmm
that fulfills me staying at home, that fulfills me being able to have time to do some of this business on the side. But then I was like, don't know what they set my schedule. I could be working overtime, you know, you don't really know. And like you're building it after you're exhausted from working a day job. I was like, do I see myself doing this for like 10 years or like 5 years when we have kids? And it's like, daddy just put out a huge fire. He's going to sleep for 24 hours now and then he's going to go back to work. It's like, I was like, all right. And then I was like, all right, what happens when that one time you got to get that Kevlar blanket into the house, lift that 400-pound life lady out? And it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not jumping off that cliff. Not today. Literally,
Think
that
of
was like, I hate to be shallow, but like, and for the firefighters out there, like genuinely, it seems like the coolest job ever. But like, that was the feather that broke the camel's back for me. I was like, I'm not doing that. Sorry, can't do it. You know?
I think
well,
that's
that's the whole
the
point of the group, right? Is to like, I mean, there's plenty of people who in the group that work their W-2. They want to have their W-2, but they want other options and ways to do things. And then
a
there's
lot of
people
them
who just
need it,
who
right?
yeah. And then there's people who just want to get out of the rat race and, do their own thing and be in control. And either one's fine. I mean, everybody's got their own way of doing everything. It's just, it varies for sure.
I think I'd probably still have a W-2 if I wouldn't have got laid off. I was making easy money. Had a lot of good people I was working with. It'd be hard for me to say, oh,
What
see
did you
y'all.
do, Jay? I don't even like. I know what Jamie did. He's nodding his head like he
Jay was a
wants his job.
hacker.
I know what
Yeah,
Jamie did, but I don't remember what
I
you
was
did, Jay.
I was in technology. I ended my career as in sales and leading the sales team, and we sold actual remote productivity software like Office 365 and Teams and stuff like that that people use during COVID uh, to work remotely. So
So what happened? Like, when did you get laid off, and why?
during it was May 1st of 2020, and they cited COVID reasons, which allowed some government programs or plans to help us out, kind of make that transition, right? Um, but when you kind of look at the timeline after that, and in less than a year, I think it was less than a year, it might have been a little bit longer, they were acquired by a much larger organization. So you can kind of look back and say, well, it was a restructuring to make their books look really good. And they were just taking advantage of kind of the situation.
Well, a lot
At
of
least
people
that's the
took
story I'm
advantage
telling
of that
myself.
situation.
It's
Yeah.
all too familiar, my friend. All too
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
don't you want to like make your own decisions and not be held to some corporation
Yeah.
that's
No,
gonna
absolutely.
like throw you into the dumpster whenever they decide they want to do that?
And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I don't know that I could ever go back if I wanted to, because when everybody talks about don't burn bridges. I was very vocal on social media about never going back to the
Yes, you
W2
were.
world.
Yes, you were.
And
And,
matter of fact,
and critical of leadership and
I well, it was it was an emotional time for me, but it was also very accurate in my eye. And I'll tell you how I was like, oh, this has really gotten out of hand. Is so half my team got laid off as well, right? And so they were putting me down as a reference, and happy to refer any of them. And they did an amazing job, and there was a recruiter that called me about one of the guys that worked for me, and I gave him raving reviews. And at the end of the conversation, she goes, "Well, what are you doing?" I was like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" Giving you a reference. She goes, "No, what are you doing right now? Didn't you get laid off as well?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." She goes, "I'd love to talk to you about this position we have open." And I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm not gonna, I don't think I'm gonna go back to work." And so that led into a real estate investing, conversation. But then she said, "Oh, you're the guy who's never going back to the W-2 world." And
Oh,
I was like, how did you know that? She goes, I looked you up. I was like, oh, okay. So I would have to do
Is
like
there
this
a
mass.
YouTube video or something?
There is. At least one. At least
It's
one.
like when what's that movie with Tom Cruise where he like left the sports place?
Oh yeah. I was gonna say Moneyball, but that's not it. Jerry Maguire.
That's it.
Yes. Yes. So it was like kind of like that when you left. Like, who's coming with me? And then nobody.
Kind of.
nobody
No,
comes
it
with
was.
him.
Yeah, I would have been the guy walking out by myself for sure. No,
Oh, that's hilarious.
it wasn't a who's coming with me, but I felt like I told my side of the story for sure. And but as critical as I was, toward those guys, and I don't envy their position whatsoever. I mean, I think about my boss who he has to call this guy who's got 3 kids who are all under 5 and say, "Hey, man, we gotta let you go." I can't imagine what kind of, here I am feeling compassion for the guy, what that's like. And, it's been the best thing that's ever happened. So it's where I was critical, but it was just, yeah, in the moment it was rough.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, y'all are talking like y'all want to go back to your W-2s, but there's still like
No,
if you did, like you'd still like they can slice you at any moment. Like, don't you just
they
want to
can
build your
yeah.
own foundation and have your own?
I'll tell you how much I don't want to go back to working for somebody else. There was a guy, he hosts a pretty well-known podcast, and he was looking for a co-host, and I thought, this is interesting. I'm curious on what this looks like, and it was a 6-figure salary, and I'm like, well, there's really nothing in the hosting a podcast, right? I mean, there's not like, it's, to me, it's not a 40-hour a week job, but to them it was. And I made it to the 3rd round of interviews, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it.
Too structured and
Too structured, man.
not like this where we're just shooting the shit. And
Yeah, no, it was going to be too structured. I was going to have to fill out timesheets. Like, no, I'm not going back to that. It was the timesheets might have been the thing that kind of broke my back. But anyway,
that research time.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's, I'll hire a VA to do that.
Yep.
And I even positioned, I was like, well, you don't have to pay me that much and just hire a VA to do all this research. And like, no, this has to be you. You have to be clocked in. You have to do all this. I was like, you guys are taking this way too serious. This is
what kind of podcast was it? Was it real estate?
Yeah, it was real estate based. Yeah, investing overall. Real estate was a piece of it, but I don't know.
Now I feel like I'm screwed because we're doing this for free.
I was like, yeah.
Well, I mean, what would you say to like somebody who's interested then in real estate and they want to break into it, but like, let's say they're doing a lateral change, like they're like, or not lateral, but like, I guess vertical lateral. I'm not sure. They're just switching from like one W-2 to like jumping into that position as a co-host on
changing industries almost.
Yeah.
Changing industries to get into real estate. Would you recommend somebody do that? Or are you talking about just break away from the W-2 and figure it out on your own?
You gotta merge it.
Yeah, I would say hop over if you can. I mean, I got interviewed on the Curious Investor podcast, and before we're recording, we're talking, just chatting it up with these guys, and I was like, I don't know a lot about you. You couldn't find out a whole lot, and they were like, yeah, one of the hosts had done a couple of deals. The other one doesn't have any real estate in his portfolio, never bought an investment property. And he said, we're just using the podcast to kind of expand our reach and get to know people. And I'm like, that's exactly what I did. I love it.
Genius. Yeah. I definitely think there can, I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I definitely think there can be a meshing of real estate or passion with a W-2 that can launch your, not only your career, but your investing and your financial situation. I mean, I think there's plenty of opportunities. We have some guys in the mastermind. There's a guy that jumps on our Tuesday night call that works for a commercial property management company. He's getting young kid. I mean, getting a ton of experience with that, that whole market.
Yep.
That's just gonna, I think
and he's got, you got resources
at
at your disposal too, that you wouldn't have. Like I got a buddy, shout out to my main man, Ethan. He does door-to-door roofing sales.
Oh yeah.
And he's very entrepreneurial. And I'm like, dude, you're a freaking savage door knocking, selling roofs. Like you would murder the real estate investing game. Like, and he's very, very like outgoing, very like trustworthy, like just good dude all around.
Does he have an O'Brien Holmes hat yet? Or
not yet?
No, he's got one. Yeah, I
neither do I.
The second one Jamie sent me.
I did send him too.
You got
it sounds like he's a lead machine.
I'm just kidding. I think it too. But like he's like, yeah, like I'm just trying to figure out a couple of different pieces, and I feel like everybody like that. Nobody starts out with all the pieces in place. You have a couple of pieces of the puzzle. Like he's good at talking. He's got some guys with him, but like there's other parts of it that he doesn't fully understand, like how to fund deals or how to find them. So it's like, working with somebody that helps you complete that puzzle, I think is, and this is going into partnerships now, or like strategic W-2s where it's like, I want to work with them because they bring to the table what I don't have.
Well, as far as finding deals and funding, I mean, he just needs to join the mastermind and he can take advantage of W-2 capital.
There's only 9 places left, right?
They got to
get in quick.
Yeah. When you leave a review, and I hope you do, don't forget to tell us who you are and leave 5 stars. That's from Dirty Jobs Micro. Listen, guys, if you're interested in exploring any of the products or services that I use to make my real estate investing career easier, or you want to explore joining us in the W2 Capitalist community where you can hang out with guys like myself, Brody, Jamie, and Jeff on a routine basis, there's going to be a link somewhere in the description or comments or something like that, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. But as promised, if you have any questions whatsoever, or you feel like I can help you in anything we talk about here today on this episode or any of the previous episodes, send me a text. I was going to say, give me a call, but chances are, if you're not in my phone book, I'm not going to answer. So send me a text. Let me know what episode you're listening to and how I can potentially help you. We'll find a time to get on a call. Okay. My cell phone number is 205-249-0248.